What an absolute bastard this kid's grandfather is. You look scared, and that annoys me. So I'm just going to close the door and tell you to go fuck yourself.
Yet more compassion and understanding from the patriarch of the family.
Hold hands and close your eyes. It's midnight, and you're listening to the Ghost Story Guys. Welcome to the Ghost Story Guys. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestel.
And this is a show where we talk about spooks, specters, and all the other things watching us from the shadows beyond the campfire. Some conversations only make sense after the sun has set, and this is most definitely one. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 214, and we're coming to you from that tiny mountain cabin you dream about, but can never quite reach. Paul Bestel, my friend, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. We're just having a pre-heat wave lull. We're having a couple of days off, and then it's back to being red hot again. And very shortly, I will imagine that the British water authorities will announce a state of emergency, because I can't remember the last time it rained.
Yikes.
It's going to be brilliant.
Back to wartime rationing, but for water.
Well, it is VE Day, so why not?
There we go. Bring back the classics.
Spam for everyone.
I'm a spam fan. I am pro spam, so that doesn't sound so bad.
I am grilled spam.
Spam musubi, good stuff.
With a poached egg.
In addition to your craven love of spam, you have seen the Thunderbolts and were suitably impressed?
Loved it. My only criticism is there wasn't enough Hannah John Kamen in it.
She's pretty great.
Yeah, she is. No
argument here. I also loved it. As a matter of fact, I am. This weekend is Shockstock here in London. It is the big horror convention in this part of Ontario, and I've got tickets for a bunch of oddball screenings coming up. But I don't know if there is one that will be odder than what I saw yesterday. And folks, if you're new to the show, I swear to God, we actually tell ghost stories. We're getting there, trust me. We're in fact telling ghost stories from the province of Ontario on this episode, so this is tangentially relevant, I promise. But I saw a film called Dead, White, and Blue, and it is called a green film in that it has no new footage. It is entirely cut together from 300 plus public domain films and stock footage clips. It is bonkers. I was explaining it to you off air, and it is a very, very strange movie. But even stranger than that, Paul, was running into people I knew at the screening, because I'm so used to not running into anyone I know here in London that I was leaning, I was at Imagine Cinemas downtown. I was leaning on the balcony just waiting for them to open the screening. And I heard, "Oh, hey, Brennan." I nearly jumped a mile. I thought, who do I owe money to?
It's Justin Trudeau.
Yeah. Hey, brother, can you spare a dime? Absolutely not. You know, it was Mason, this guy who he directed me in a film that we shot together last year. Yeah, I was in one scene. And it was nice to run into him. I also ran into Crystal, who is a volunteer with Forest City Film Festival, who might sometimes listen to the show. So, Crystal, if you're listening, hello.
Hello.
But yeah, very, very strange. I'm so spaced out. And basically, ever since Victoria, where absolutely no one fucking says hi to you, I am just unprepared for friendliness in all its forms. So it was very, very strange. Yeah, so it was a very strange screening, very cool. Of course, by the time this comes out, Shockstock will be over, so be too late for anyone to check it out. But if you're in the area next year, Shockstock in London, Ontario, it's again London's premier horror convention. It is a big deal. If I wasn't such a grumpy bastard, I would go to the whole convention, but I have my limits. Well, speaking of southwestern Ontario, as I mentioned on this show, we are going to be telling stories of haunting in the province of Ontario generally. We have a lot of stuff, most of it centered around the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, but we do also have stories from elsewhere in the province, and we'll probably be doing a series of Ontario episodes in the immediate future, just because there are so many stories, and it is such a very big province. I think it's hard to sort of grasp the size of a place like Ontario, Paul, because we tend to think of it in terms of the population center. So again, like Toronto and along the border there down to Windsor and over to Niagara. But there is so much more to it and so much more weirdness than you can possibly imagine. And so I'm very much looking forward to getting into some of that lore But before we do, we have to thank our patrons.
This one's for the patrons.
Patrons, we could not do what we do without you. So thank you. Thank you, thank you. For real, guys, every single person who downloads the Ghost Story Guys, you help make us who we are. But paid subscribers are the ones who truly allow this great big machine to keep on working. And we appreciate all of you, especially now. I know money is really uncertain right now, especially in North America. Things are very, very dicey. So we appreciate every single person who subscribes or has subscribed. And if you do have to cancel your membership, you don't have to. As much as we appreciate when you send us a note, please don't feel obligated to do that. It's again, we never feel entitled to your money anyways, and especially in times like these, we certainly do not. We do not expect you to sacrifice other things in your life to help pay our bills. It wouldn't be fair. But again, we'd like to thank all our patrons, but right now we would especially like to thank our latest ones. They are
Supergrams,
Brad H.,
Lynn K. Fleischbein,
Terry Dalton,
and Nadine Gustafson.
Again, thank you so much from the bottom of our terrible hearts. You can become a subscriber at patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or by becoming a friend of the cabin on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. You get access to all kinds of cool stuff like bonus conversations between me and Paul, episodes of host adventures, sometimes additional ghost shows, our monthly live stream, and a bunch more stuff. Again, that's patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or become a friend of the cabin on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. And you can do all of that by following the link in the show notes. The one request we will make is if you do sign up via Patreon, please do not do it via the iOS app. They have introduced some really gnarly new restrictions, and it is a pain in the ass. So again, if you do, that's okay. But if it is possible, do it through your web browser and become a patron that way, because the iOS app, boy, the Apple machine is never not hungry for the blood of people poorer than them.
It wants your pips.
It really, really does. All right. Paul, did you know that Ontario has not only does it have the largest economy in all of Canada, but it is almost triple the size of Alberta?
Good.
Yes. Well, it makes me very happy because it pisses Alberta off so much, because Alberta is convinced they are Dad's most special boy, and they are not. And this amuses me no end. So again, I'm from BC. I don't have a stake in this game. I'm living in Ontario right now, but when I looked that up today, I was like, that just makes me smile.
Indeed. It's the only baseball shirt I own. I have a Toronto's Blue Jays jersey.
Oh, no kidding.
That was gifted to me, because apparently they do weird things like give free shirts away at games, which nobody here would do, because why give something away you can charge 80 quid for?
Well, from what I understand, these are not typically charity endeavors at our end either, so that seems surprising. But I'm going to have to get me to a game and score a free shirt.
Absolutely.
Maybe if I walk in there without one,
Ooh.
They'll be like, put this on right now, or we will launch you into the sun. Maybe we'll find out in the stories we're about to tell. Probably not, but who knows? You have to keep listening, just in case. We'll be right back. Our first story tonight is called The Northern Haunting. My aunt and uncle moved 5 hours north from me. I live in Ontario, Canada, just an hour outside of Toronto. They moved into a beautiful old farmhouse. It's huge, near the end of a dirt road that seems to go on forever, surrounded by dense woods. The house always had a weird feeling to it. The basement scared me all the time. I felt like I was being watched from the dark corners. If I had to go down there, I always ran and didn't look behind me whatsoever. It always felt like someone or something was right behind me the entire time I was down there. There's a heavy door that separates the great room from the basement and stairs. On quiet days, you could hear the door opening and closing by itself. You could hear footsteps all through the house, some sounding like they're coming from the basement. Doors would slam shut if they were left open, and the windows were almost always closed. These are heavy doors. You felt like you were never alone in that house, like someone or something was always there and watching. The nights were the worst. You could hear footsteps coming up the stairs, sounds of a child running, things moving around. It was always sound. You never really saw anything, other than flashes of something out of the corner of your eyes. My aunt and uncle had cats for the longest time, so you can blame some of the sounds on them. And maybe it was the cats moving just out of sight, but this sort of activity continued even after the cats passed away. There was a family dinner. We were all at the table, me at the back near the wall so I could see up the stairs and hallway leading to the 3 rooms. We were all eating dinner, and I got this feeling that I should look down the hallway. So I did, and that's when I saw a black mass leaning over the wooden railing over top of the great room. It didn't move, didn't turn its head. It was just leaning over the railing, looking down. Being young, it scared me, so I kept looking back to see if it was still there or if I could see it again. My grandpa got annoyed and closed the door to the rooms. It was weird. No one else had seen it. No one really believed me either. It was the weirdest thing. It was the first time I'd actually seen a figure or being in that house. Till then, it had all been sounds and feelings. On another visit, in a different summer, I was much older, maybe 15. I was laying in bed on a hot summer night with the blankets half on, half off. I never felt comfortable or safe enough in that house to sleep without a blanket. I was laying in bed, listening to the crickets and scrolling through social media, when the house got really quiet. The house is already very quiet, but it got still, like the calm before a storm. All of a sudden, footsteps came running up the stairs and stopped at my closed bedroom door. They sounded like a child's, too heavy to be a cat, and by this time their cats were long gone. My aunt and uncle have no kids either. It was just me and my aunt and uncle in the house at this time, and those steps were too light to be either of them. I froze. I just listened, waiting for my door to creak open, but it never did. I waited for an hour or so before putting anything on to watch, and I never heard the footsteps again that night. The next morning, I asked my aunt and uncle if they heard anything, and they told me no. Feeling like crazy, I never said anything again to them about it. My aunt and uncle have since admitted to feeling like they're being watched and not alone, but they've never seen anything like I saw that one night. I haven't been to their place in years, and I don't think I want to go back. The house is weird, and something isn't right there. You can also hear weird sounds coming from the forest around the house. And I mean, forests just make weird noises generally, but the house itself sounds like just a big old red flag to me.
It seems quite welcoming and inviting to the unsuspecting teenager.
You and I have this explains a lot of your dating history. I was going to say, we have a very different idea of what constitutes inviting.
Well, that's me feeling seen.
A-was season. Just like in your favorite movie, Pandora, or Avatar, rather.
Well, yeah, I just like new experiences. It's like I've got this little box somebody's just gifted me. I've got to work out how to open it.
Yeah, apparently they have such sights to show me.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it sounds like a really nice trip.
I was telling Paul off air that I went to go see the film Until Dawn recently, and it's fine. It's, you know, if you like horror movies, it's worth your $10. But one of the actresses in it looks like one of my old girlfriends, and she was also in the Hellraiser remake, and I quite like the Hellraiser. I didn't like it when I first watched it, but it's grown on me over time. But whenever I do watch it, she actually in that film dresses exactly right down to the combats and the camo jacket, like my old girlfriend at the time. I have it's like PTSD right away. I just, as soon as she comes around the corner, the curly hair, the camo jacket, I'm like back in Nam. I can hear the choppers. I'm screaming.
Rolling Stones.
Yeah. All my stuff is covered in curly hair. I have to pay all the bills. It's a whole thing. Terrible. But the actress herself, I think her name's like Olivia Dezian or something. Very, very talented actress. So it's not her fault.
Good.
Paul, going back to the story though, Paul, what an absolute bastard this kid's grandfather is. You look scared, and that annoys me. So I'm just going to close the door and tell you to go fuck yourself.
Yet more compassion and understanding from the patriarch of the family dynamic.
What I appreciate about that is it completely upends the notion that like grandpa's the guy you go to for comfort. You know, like dad's evil, but grandpa's kind of a bastard. Maybe it's just my childhood. But you know, dad's evil, but he's okay. And this one, like grandpa's like, no, I am also a piece of trash. Your dad came from somewhere, son.
Those apples don't fall far from this tree.
Yeah, I shot him out fully already with horns from my evil befouled balls. I do think it's interesting though, like again, just there is so much woodland in Ontario that again, before I moved out here, even I didn't really think about it because when you're in the West, the only time you think about the East is when you bitch about the elections.
Yeah.
But other than that, you don't think about Ontario. It's also to resent people from Toronto, which I think is a Canadian thing because I actually quite like Toronto now that I've been there. But growing up out West, you're just taught that no, people from out East, they think they're at the center of the universe. But not said in that sentence is we're actually the center of the universe here in the West. So the narcissist hates nothing more than another narcissist, right?
That's probably why there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings there, because he loves the woods.
I wondered if there was Bigfoot sightings from Northern Ontario.
Yeah, there's one on a lake somewhere where somebody was sort of just trundling past and a Bigfoot was on the riverbank and saw them and just started lobbing rocks at them.
Oh, Jesus.
Fuck off.
I remember that scene from Sasquatch Sunset. Yeah.
Maybe I'll see that one day.
Oh, don't do that.
Hey, I've just sat through The New Crow, so anything's possible.
Yeah, you've suffered enough, I think.
For this
you get
week.
to go into Valhalla now.
Yeah, I'll be all right. Eurovision next week will cleanse my soul.
Oh, there we go. That's not so bad then. Now, in addition to the main story, I found a couple bonus stories that don't. Again, they're too short to kind of do their own segment, but I thought we would share them with folks. So this one is just from I think just from Toronto itself. If you want to share that one, Paul.
Yeah. I live alone in a bright apartment in a well-kept 60-year-old high-rise building in Toronto. A week or so after moving in, I found myself getting distracted by a feeling that something just out of my field of vision was present. I'd be sitting on the couch reading and suddenly snap my head toward the front door or kitchen. I never heard anything, I just kept sensing something, turning my head and seeing nothing, and then going back to what I was doing. Early one morning, I was asleep in bed and I got that same feeling. I opened my eyes and a tall, elderly Asian man is standing at the foot of my bed. He's neatly dressed in pressed grey trousers, a white shirt and a brown buttoned cardigan sweater. He looked about 80, balding with wisps of white hair and faint veins on his scalp. He was just looking at me and tightly clutching to his chest, with both arms, a large, brown paper grocery bag, folded closed at the top and obviously filled with groceries or something. I cried out in surprise and turned my head away, and he was gone when I looked back, and I never felt that presence again.
That's one of those stories that sounds like you wouldn't be surprised to discover someone else had a ghost story, that they saw a woman when they were coming in with their groceries.
You see them in all kinds of pretty sort of mundane scenarios, and that's another prime example, isn't it? I mean, it's nothing particularly frightening. It's just a granddad who's done his weekly shop.
And that goes to the thing you and I have talked about off and on, this idea that it's possible we see more of this shit than we think we do. It just looks so mundane that you're just not, you don't clock it.
Well, exactly. It only strikes you as out of the ordinary because he's in your room and you're in bed. If you saw that, if you walked past that on the street, you wouldn't give it a second's notice. That's
it. Even if they were wearing out-of-date clothing, I don't think most people are paying that much attention.
No. Especially these days, because people wear all kinds of different styles and trends. I think it's far harder to spot somebody who looks out of place more than it would have done 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah, that's it. Well, ever since time collapsed, and we've just been living in the same decaying echo of the 1960s, everything just comes back around again.
Yeah, very much so. It's it's difficult. But I suppose the ghosts are quite happy about it because they can now sort of go about their business without causing alarm as much.
It must be a real pisser for the demons, though, eh?
Oh.
They're wandering around with their cloven hooves and their giant, shaggy torsos trying to scare the shit out of people. Everyone just thinks they're furries. There's a bunch of gals with super into like monster erotica right now, and they just see a demon and they're chasing him down the street.
That was ironic. One of my Kindle recommendations the other day was a Bigfoot porn book. And they called it sort of cryptid erotica. It's like, no. Go away, you filthy urchins.
Well, I remember a while back, Duncan Ralston asked us to, and of course, folks, if you don't know Duncan, he's actually an author from Toronto. He writes extreme horror, but he put out a reel or a TikTok about a problem with Amazon right now. And Amazon, one of their many sins is that they've allowed a lot of AI written garbage into their Kindle Direct stores. And because he publishes there, the real authors are getting sunk beneath the waves of this mass-produced garbage. But he said a lot of it is, I'm not going to pretend to understand what this means, and I refuse to look it up, but shifter porn. And I think it's like shape-shifting porn, if I had to guess.
Greek mythology. Okay,
no, that's fine.
Because essentially that's all Zeus is doing, isn't it?
I suppose he is. Yeah, okay. So this is, yeah. So anyways, this is apparently a thing, and that's what I learned today. Yes.
Do you think that's what chatbots read in their spare time, and that's who's buying it?
You know what? I am so tired of intellectually incurious people telling me about all the stuff ChatGPT has told them that I think ChatGPT must be exhausted, and Claude and all those other LLMs must be exhausted. So the fact they're just laying back with some full-on erotica, good for them.
Probably explains why Hal's so grumpy in Space Odyssey. I'm trying to have a wank, Dave.
Wow, I never thought we'd be talking about this on the show, Paul, I gotta tell you. The curse of Delaware is real. And if you want your shifter porn, go to Ghost Story Guide. No, I'm kidding. And if anyone ever writes any fucking AO3 about us, I will send a Stinger missile to your house.
Well, it's one of those things that, people, I don't understand why anybody would want to read a sex story involving a cryptid, but hey, I don't understand why some people put ketchup on steak, but it happens, and it's wrong, but it's not for me to judge them.
I will say one of the few times I was starstruck by someone following us on Instagram was the author Chuck Tingle. I was overjoyed when the author of, well, I'm not going to name any of his books, but folks, you can look up Chuck Tingle, and he has done a number of, we'll say, related novels.
Racy.
Which are racy indeed. Yes, they are very creatively titled too. Real, and it just seems like an all around good, interesting person. Of course, no one seems to know who he really is, and that's fine. Mystery is wonderful. But yeah, when Chuck Tingle followed us, author of, well, I will say one. I think one was Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. I'm pretty sure that was a Chuck Tingle book. So this gives you a sense of what to expect. And again, that is. Best I understand it, this person just writes them. There is no substitution for genuine human perversion.
Haunted in Guelph.
Guelph.
This story takes place over a period of time. What?
Guelph.
Guelph. Haunted in Guelph. This story, is that a real place? Are you just joshing with me now?
You'll never know. You'll have to come visit.
This story takes place over a period of time in the 1990s when I was a kid from about 11 to 14 years old in my family home. I've spent most of my life in a mid-sized city about 100 kilometres west of Toronto, Ontario. The city is nicknamed the Royal City and was founded almost 200 years ago. The neighbourhood that I came of age in was one of the city's older neighbourhoods, and many of the neighbouring houses were built around the turn of the 20th century, and some even a bit earlier than that. My dad bought our house when I was 8, and we moved in when I was 9 after some extensive renovations. My dad was a contractor and home builder at the time, and after we moved in, he'd finished all the bulk of the renovations. This detail might seem a bit of a wonder at this point, but it will be relevant later. After the renovations and waterproofing were done, I went about my childhood, often left to my own devices. Not much happened for a while, though I always had a sense that I was not quite alone. Not in a bad way, just a feeling. The type of feeling where you aren't scared, but maybe should leave a light on. I kept on playing, and I got a bit older. My parents felt I'd be a great babysitter, mostly for my little sister, who was 7 years younger than me, And so, me at 12-year-old found myself in a position where I was in charge of the house quite a bit. As I found myself alone and in charge of my little sister more and more, I made some routines. I'd put my little sister to bed, and then I'd go downstairs and enjoy the things 12-year-olds enjoyed in a rising middle-class family in the 1990s. I would play computer games on our 386, or watch TV, sometimes get in a clean enough atmosphere to pick up Buffalo 29 and enjoy some American TV. My other pastime, work on my rock star ambitions at our piano. The first time it happened, I was spooked. I took my sister in and was working out some new rock anthems that would surely bring me fame, glory and riches. Feeling a real banger coming on, I decided I should write some sheet music and work on the project. The piano was on the main floor against the stairs. My music books were in my bedroom in the attic. I left my piano stool, as we didn't have a bench, but used an old organ stool in its stead, and I went up to my room 2 floors up. When I got to the second floor, I heard a distinct rambling hit the keys. I stopped quickly. First I was worried that there was an intruder or some type of animal that had somehow got in. Then I shook my head and waited for a second round. Nothing happened, but I remained still, not knowing what to do. After another silent moment, I shook my head once more and went up to the attic, sure I'd made it up. Then I heard a whole 8 bars. More organised and definitely not an animal. I waited for more, but nothing came, and I went back down to the second level, checking to see that my sister was asleep, and she was. I stood at the top of the stairs, really not sure what to do. Eventually, who knows how long after, I slid down the stairs bum-seated, and after a careful check, it was clear I must have made it up in my head, and so I got back to the anthem I was sure would be well received by the masses. I never mentioned the piano visitor, and life went on as it does for a 12-year-old. Some time later, I found myself in a similar situation, putting my sister to bed and getting back to some songwriting. Again, working on a song, and this time with paper at the instrument, I was feeling good about this track. On this night, however, the circumstances were a bit different for the encounter. This time my sister woke up, and so I went up to check on her and get back to sleep. I left the piano and was upstairs for maybe 10 minutes. This time my sister woke up, so I went up to check on her and get her back to sleep. I left the piano and was upstairs for maybe 10 minutes or so. When I came back down to the piano, my sheets were on the floor, along with my marker, almost as if they'd been blown down by a breeze. It was an old house. Who knows, I thought. So I picked them back up and sorted them. There were a number of strike-throughs and some lines, though, that were clearly not notes, that looked like somebody had been trying to write a tune. I wasn't scared, but I somehow knew what it was. I didn't bother looking for intruders or critters, but just somehow accepted that I was with someone else. I never told my parents about this, and I could never quite figure out the tune, but I tried off and on again to make it work. It was some sort of chord starting at around C8, and then some heavy treble notes down the keys. But it never sounded quite right, but I'd liked trying to play it to see if I might ever unlock something. For a long time nothing else ever happened, but one day, maybe a year and a half later, now closer to 14, I was in that usual situation, left to my own devices. Bored of video games, I closed up and went to my room in the attic. I had a desk, and because I've always loved drawing, I had a good collection of pencils and papers and markers. I always kept my desk clear as a habit, and when I got to my room I went to my desk, and the pencils were knocked over, the markers were on the floor, and 3 sheets of paper on my desk were covered in a scribble of green marker and blue pen. No image there that I could make out, and nothing I could decipher as a symbol. I was freaked out, but not really scared. I stayed in my room leaving the light on and went to bed. And then for the next few months, I'd try and encourage my ghost to tell me what they were trying to tell me. I'd leave the markers out on purpose and some extra paper. I'd talk to the ghost to let them know that I was doing. I'd talk to my ghost to let them know what I was doing. OK, I'm going up to the attic now, and I'd run up the stairs, turning the light off from the top, and do it again to the attic. All right, I'm just in my room now. I did this rather routinely for the next 4 years until I moved out. I never got another message on paper, but a few times I'd hear notes, and on occasion I'd go back downstairs and the lights would be on, when I was sure they were off when I'd gone to my room. I never figured out who my ghost was. I moved out shortly after I finished high school, and my family also followed just after. But I always felt sure that there was a nice man trying to talk to me ever since I laid that tile. I often wonder who he was, and if he's still there. I think he was a musician and a veteran of either war, and I think he was trying to tell me something, but I was never really afraid of him. But he definitely gave me a habit of leaving the light on.
That was really interesting. It's sort of a fascinating coincidence too, because I was just listening to an episode of Where Did the Road Go, where they were talking about the synchronicities between music, or the connection between music and UFO sightings, which I thought was kind of interesting, and just how there does seem to be this sort of musical connection between the two in certain cases, at least. Have you heard much about that kind of thing?
Not particularly in ufology, but certainly in the paranormal. I mean, obviously, probably one of, I think, is it the Stanley? Obviously, the infamous Stanley Hotel. One of their ghosts is known for playing the piano, isn't it?
Of course, right? Yeah.
So yeah, music is something. I mean, even going all the way back to, what was it, 16th century? You've got the very famous poltergeist case here of the Tedworth drummer with the haunted drum. So it was about this guy who was a pain in the arse, and he'd just walk about hammered, playing his drum all the time, wecking people up, getting on their nerves. And so they arrested him, and the drum was put somewhere else. And then every night the drum would play itself, annoying everybody and the guards and keeping people awake, until he was eventually released. But it was a case of, people have kind of said, oh, well, it must have been a poltergeist. But it doesn't seem to really be a poltergeist, because it only happened when he was away from the drum. So there was clearly some kind of other connection there. But that's probably the earliest example of a haunted instrument being involved in a paranormal encounter. And there's been a few over the years of people hearing bits of music or pianos being played where
Sure.
nobody's there, harps being strummed, guitars being strummed. So I think it's one of those things that if you look for it out there in hauntings especially, you will be surprised at the amount of cases that involve music of some description.
Sure, yeah. Well, I know my experiences with it sort of extend mostly to when I'm high, if I'm honest. I mean, I haven't been that high in a long time, but I would hear music, and it's not music that's real. It's like it's not music that exists in the world. It's just kind of spontaneous music, but I'm hearing it just at the edge of my awareness, and that was always my indication that, like, oh, I should go lie down now, because I'm hearing music.
Well, to be fair, it has been proven in the past that people's fillings can pick up radio.
Oh, okay, interesting.
You hear music, and so you think, hang on, where's that coming from? And it's actually your fillings that are picking up radio signals.
Oh, okay.
And so it sounds like it's in your head, but it's not. And when that happens, it's the weirdest thing ever.
I cannot. That would be maddening, because I know when I lived in the apartment, my microphone was picking up radio signals, and that was driving me crazy. I can't imagine if it was in my fucking head.
Well, that's the strange thing about you know, at all times there's so many signals bouncing around through us and around us and in us hounds and outside, that the chances for some kind of electrical interference to be done, as I've mentioned previously, when I remember the first time I was cleaning up the pub late at night, it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then all of a sudden you'd start hearing weird noises, and it was the stereo speakers picking up taxis. And so you just hear somebody going, yeah, I'm going to have a thought. I'm on my way now.
Oof.
What?
Yeah.
You go, what? What? And it's only if you let it run, and then you eventually hear somebody going, yeah, I've got a fare at Norfolk Park. And you're like, right. It's a taxi. And then you start thinking, well, how's that working? But luckily one of my regulars was an extremely proficient telecoms engineer, and he kind of explained that it was this principle of stuff just floating about, and if the conditions are right and the atmosphere is conducive to magnifying these signals, any kind of stereo speaker can pick them up and play them, even if it's not connected to what's causing the noise. So yeah, it was quite eye-opening 30 years ago to discover that kind of thing.
Yeah, no kidding. That would do it. I guess it's nice to have that explanation, because otherwise I'd be bricking it.
So yeah, it's I know one of the members of the Society for Psychical Research, Dr. Melvin Willin, has written a book all about music and the paranormal.
Oh, really? I should pick that up.
Yeah, because he did a really good book about the Enfield tapes, because of all the tapes they got from the poltergeist case.
Oh, okay.
And he's got all the archive in his shed.
Oh, cool. Does that connect to the musical thing?
I'm trying to think if there were any music heard. I'm trying to think. There's definitely a poltergeist case here where there was music played. There was music that kept appearing, and I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. I'll have to do it. But yeah, there's hundreds of examples, I think, out there.
Because the one I always go back to, and I'm just trying to find it in my phone here, was that dream I had a few years back. I think it was when you and I were working together, but I had a dream where I heard a song, and it sounded very familiar. So when I woke up, I wrote down what of the lyrics I could remember, and I Googled it. And what I discovered is that the only record of it anywhere I could find online was a single Reddit post by someone who had exactly the same experience. And I'm just trying to find that post now. I think I screen capped it. Here it is. So the post was, can anyone identify this song via lyrics? And these are the lyrics. And if anyone can recognize these, I would love to know. They start with, go back to the times before we had to read between the lines, never had to leave the world behind, always stuck together, you and I. Go back to the days before we had to wander through the haze. And the poster says, this is everything I have from the song, but I can't find the title or artist. And again, if someone out there knows, please let me know, because I quite like the song in the dream, and that person is the only other person I have found online who has even heard this song. And again, that was a Reddit thread from probably 7 years ago now, and no one in that thread knew jack shit. There was one guy who was, of course, very coy. He's like, oh, well, which means he knows fuck all. So yeah, I would love to know. And going back to the story, so I don't know much about Guelph. I haven't been there yet. But I did find an author named Bonnie Durtnall, Durtnall. She's written a book called Haunted Guelph. So if anyone out there wants to know more about the city, that came out in 2023, according to the Guelph Mercury Tribune. And the book is, again, it's called Haunted Guelph. And she mentions the former Ontario Reformatory on York Street. She said that is her number one. She said it would be the first place she recommends exploring in Guelph because they are open to the public and accessible. The buildings aren't open anymore, but the grounds themselves were landscaped by prisoners and apparently are still said to be very, very haunted. She also mentions the County of Wellington Courthouse, which it's always courthouses, I find, in these small towns. I don't know if it's something to do with a big building. It was once a focus of municipal life, but small towns, people always talk about the courthouse. And then finally, the other one they mention is St. Joseph's Cemetery, which is 58 Westmount Road. And this, of course, is about mobsters, because this is Southern Ontario. And surprisingly enough, Ontario has a rich history of the Italian mob, which, may come as a surprise to some people. But there is a great series. I think it's actually just called Mafia Wars or something stupid like that, but it's available here in Canada, and it details the history of the mafia in Toronto. Really interesting stuff. And somehow, maybe not all that surprising, I ended up here, then, given what we have unearthed about my family history. Turns out I come from a lot of really bad people. The Thornhill Lottery. For the longest time, I've been trying to rationalize an event that happened in around 2005 or 2006 while I was working at Promenade Mall in Thornhill, Ontario. Back then, I was managing an EB Games store at a local mall. It was during the closing shift, and there were only 2 staff members working that night, a part-timer and myself. I am an avid lottery player and would play religiously every week and several times a week. I think you might have an addiction there, my son. I have a small plastic blue pouch where my tickets, money, and lotto play sheets are kept in. I also carry a backpack every day that holds my lunch, the blue pouch, my drink, and other miscellaneous stuff. On that particular night, I asked my part-timer to start closing procedures, count cash, and so on, while I cleaned up and closed the store. I decided to gather my belongings so that when he was finished, we could leave promptly. I went to the back office, which was a small room with only one door to the store floor, to gather my belongings in the backpack. I had my lunch container and water bottle placed there, and noticed my lotto pouch was missing. I realized that I may have inadvertently left it out on the store floor between the cash registers, which I sometimes do when I arrive to the store after playing and don't have the time to put it in the back office. This time, I was 100% sure I had put it in my backpack earlier in the afternoon. I emptied it out and put everything on the desk, leaving it open and empty, and searched all the compartments. Nothing. All the compartments were emptied out. I went back out to the floor to look for it on the side of the cash register. Nothing. I asked my part-timer if he'd seen it. He hadn't. I went through every nook and cranny trying to find it. Under shelves, cabinets, and under the register. I decided to retrace my steps to the back office and check along the way. Everything I could think of. I was adamant it was in the store. I did not lose it outside. This lotto pouch had my lotto tickets and cash. I went back to the office and started checking everything from the paperwork on the desk and checking the floor where it might have fallen. I checked all the shelves along the wall. Finally, I took a look at my open backpack. As I stared at the open backpack, I started to get agitated. I needed to find it so I could go home. So I started to panic, and I realized I may have lost about $300 worth of tickets and cash out there. Now I'm wondering maybe if I left it at the convenience store where I play, but I was 99.9% sure I had placed it in my backpack earlier in the day. Time was running out. I had to catch a bus home. If I didn't find it, I decided I would stay a few hours and turn the place over till I did. In panic mode, I started to turn the place upside down already. I looked everywhere and blamed myself. How could I let this happen? Before I went back out on the floor to check again, I once again examined the backpack everywhere, praying that I did not lose it and it was still in the store. I found nothing. The part-timer was almost finished and ready to leave. I checked the register area for one last time. Nothing was there. I was so disappointed and really pissed at myself that I lost so much money. I walked back to the office. As I opened the office door and turned toward the desk, on the chair was my backpack, and against the dark lining was the bright blue color of the lotto pouch. I was ecstatic. 1,000 thoughts went through my mind. What happened here? Has the pouch been there all along? How could I have missed it? Where did it go? This is why earlier I'd stepped back and made a mental note of what was happening and what I was seeing and checked every compartment to make sure I didn't imagine it. I checked that backpack more than 3 times. I know something unique happened there that night. I had hoped that wherever it went or whoever took it, the numbers I had on the tickets were of some significance. I got to catch my bus on time, and along the ride home, I was so deep in thought about what happened, I almost missed my stop. That night, I journaled about my experience, and that's why I trust my remembrance about what happened. Someone suggested that maybe there was someone trying to delay this person leaving, but obviously, if they caught the same bus, it didn't have that effect. I think, if anything, there was someone out there going, "Motherfucker, you gamble too much. This is a really bad habit."
Now, I would fall on the side of an intervention to cause a delay, personally. Not necessarily missing the bus, but the journey there.
Oh, okay. Trying to miss something happening outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. I mean, interestingly enough, I just started reading this book. I won't say the name of it because I don't think it's very good generally, but it's a paranormal book. It's the one I was telling you about off air. And there is a case where the case included where this woman was driving at night with a friend, and these 2 guys almost seemed to be about to sprint in front of her car from the side of the road. And so they weren't sure. This is, I think, telling that this person is Canadian because this happened down in the States, and their thought was maybe they needed help. But after they got a distance away from where this happened, they decided to pull over at a phone booth and call it in because they thought, well, maybe they need help. So they did that. And of course, the problem was they didn't know where they were because they were on a road trip. They were in the middle of the countryside. I want to say somewhere in Washington State. And of course, the 911 operator couldn't do, or pardon me, there was no 911 service. So they had to look up in the phone book the number of the local police station. They couldn't help them because, again, they didn't know where the fuck they were. So finally they said, well, we have to go. You know, they were on a pretty tight timeline. So they started driving. And as they crested the next hill, they realized they had missed a really severe accident. So, you know, it's a bad book because so much of it is just like, man, this thing almost happened. And I mean, after a while, that gets pretty fucking dull. But I think in that case, there does seem to be something to it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that sometimes people just don't really dwell on too often. But I think there's always been occasions in people's lives where something really trivial has caused them to be delayed, or they've lost something important, and it's either reappeared in somewhere that they've checked 20 times, or something occurs as they would have been getting to wherever they were supposed to be going, and the fact that they've been delayed has saved them in some way.
Yeah. Well, another thing I was telling you off air, I had kind of a grumpy moment, we'll say, reading that shitty book, where I just became very annoyed about a number of different sort of paranormal related things. And then I went down to the laundry room to pick up turn my laundry over. And I use two different washers. I use one for things that can go in the dryer, one for things that can't. And as I was unloading the clothes from the second washer, I found something. And the short version of this is the Friday before, when my friend had arrived to pick me up to go to the bar, I had been sitting on my couch playing a video game and listening to an audiobook. So I took my headphones out, and somehow between the couch and the front door, I had lost one of the tips of the earbud. Searched the whole apartment, could not find the fucking thing to save my life. Tried multiple times, swept the floor, mopped the floor, could not find this thing. And again, it's not a big apartment. There's not that much room between the couch and the front door. And then yesterday, when I was having my big grouchy moment, I'm all pissy walking down to the laundry room, and right at the bottom of the washer drum, there is my missing earbud, my earbud tip. And again, no idea how it could have gotten in there. There's if it would have fallen on the floor, and even if it hadn't, it'd be on the couch, not on my clothes. Absolutely baffling. And and again, it could just be it got lost. Shit happens, but it completely kind of turned my day around, because I was really, between the allergies and everything, I've just been so grumpy. And then with that book, it just really annoyed the shit out of me. And it was almost like something was going like, "Hey, calm down, you big angry bastard. You'll be fine."
Paranormal chill pill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the opposite of all the fucking antihistamines I've been taking, which I think are spiking my blood pressure. God, in that movie last night, I sounded like I told you, I sound like Typhoid Mary, because I've got like kind of the way it goes. It starts in my sinuses and it kind of moves, like migrates to my chest before it goes completely. So I just sound like an old steam engine right now. And I'm sure everyone in the back thought I was just hacking up disease over top everyone. It's like, no, my body's just shitty, guys.
It's not 5 years ago. Calm down.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I wanted to mention is I found an article about Thornhill, and I don't know much about Thornhill. I know it's part of Toronto, as I understand it. But I found an article which described the haunting of the Thornhill Library. And I just thought I would just share a couple bits of that. It says, when it comes to Thornhill Village Library's more permanent residents, it appears Mrs. Ellen Ramsden has decided to take the lead role in what might be their very own haunted house. Cynthia Tappe, a past branch librarian, intentionally stayed away from the library after hours. She told a reporter in 1988, "I do not intend to spend Halloween night or any other night in the library, for at night the library belongs to previous occupants. I myself may someday haunt the building." And again, it kind of goes on, and I'll put a link to the article in the show notes, but I just love that the library, they've just come to accept it. Like, yeah, no, this is a thing. I'm just not hanging out here. We're not doing it. Although there was one additional thing, and I have to share this because it reminded me of something that happened to you and me when we were at the convention in Rugby.
Yeah.
So when we got there, we were sitting in the bar, we were drinking with those folks the first night, and one of them said, "Oh, do you know so-and-so?" And we were like, "No." I said, "I know. I've never heard of this person before." And they said, "Oh, that's weird. They told us that they were like really famous in Canada." And I said, "Oh, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe it's not a knock against them. But I've never heard of them." But they were really surprised. They're like, "Oh man, no, they told us this person was like, they're really a big deal over there. Oh, weird." And now I don't remember this person's name. I don't remember who it was. But I was reminded of this when I saw this article, because in the article it says, author John Robert Colombo, known as Canada's Mr. Mystery. And I was like, who the fuck said that? Who gave you that fucking title? Canada's Mr. Mystery. I want to see the ballots.
Yeah, well, currently there's a guy here who seems to be telling people to describe him as Britain's top ufologist, and he isn't. and he's a hack at best. He famously thought a Chinese lantern was a UFO last year, but he somehow seems to have squirreled his way into the media's crosshairs in regards to commenting on any old shit. But yeah, and I was like, no.
I'm changing all my fucking bios to be like most hung podcaster 10 years running.
Mr. Vancouver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The bald king of the north. Like, what? You can just say things now, apparently.
The love Wendigo.
We're back from an edit because Paul nearly killed me with that one. Oh, man. And if you would like to read some of John Robert Colombo's books, he has a novel called Mysteries of Ontario. And again, we'll include we'll include a link to that wider Thornhill article in the show notes.
Yes, I always enjoy Mr. Mystery stuff.
Are you familiar with Mr. Mystery?
Oh, yeah, big fan.
Yeah, I like his early stuff.
Yeah, it's like my friend Art Rooney. Do you know him?
Mickey Rooney. I saw him in that one movie. Very convincing.
Him and Red Buttons.
Yeah.
Having some japes.
My buddy Nick Pope. The UFO expert.
He's not the one. There's another dickhead on the block.
Oh, there's a new one.
Yeah. He makes really crap documentaries and enormous leaps of faith and makes statements as though he knows what he's talking about, which he doesn't.
This is what I was talking about. I was bitching you off air. There's always a new bullshit artist. We just keep tilling the same ground. There's always some new dipshit saying the same nonsense over and over.
Yes, well, he was claiming that Prince Philip had seen Bigfoot in England earlier. So, going on his previous bullshit, you can ignore anything this man has to say about anything ever again.
Oh, Paul, what I want to do, we gotta get a new tier for the Patreon. I don't know what we'll call it, but basically they will pay people will pay us to wait for these new bullshit artists to be born, and then we just, as soon as they start talking nonsense, we just zip line in and beat the shit out of them with umbrellas.
I'm up for that. The Halliburton Owl. This happened somewhere around the summer of 2009-2010. I was about 15 or 16 years old and was coming home from something. I think it was Midnight Madness at Halliburton in Ontario with a couple of buddies. I was in the back seat of my friend's Suburban. My best friend at the time was beside me, and it was about a 35-minute drive back to where our cottages were in a private park just off Elephant Lake Road. The park roads are all dirt. The main road, where we were cruising, is around 2 cars wide, and it was around 1 or 2 in the morning, and we were coming down a straight part of this road, and my buddy locked up on the brakes. We started sliding. We all looked up, and there was an owl sitting in the middle of the road looking back at us. We all just thought, well, that's weird. Thankfully we didn't hit it, and continued on our way. A bit further down the road, we came around a tight bend where we all happened to be looking out the front at the same time. There were probably 3 or 4 white figures at the side of the road in our headlights, and suddenly they all just shot up in the air and disappeared really quickly, one by one. We all kind of jumped and looked at each other as if to say, did we all just see that? Then, a little further down the road, closer to the turn-off to my house, there's a small bridge where 2 lakes connect. There's a hill on either side of this bridge, and when we got to the bottom and our headlights started pointing up the other side, all of a sudden our friend in the passenger seat starts counting. 1, 2, 3, all the way up to about 8, as down the road all these white figures kept shooting up into the air and disappearing as our lights hit them. I'm 26 now and I still wonder about that night. There was some other weird stuff that happened while spending my teen years up there. For example, a friend used to own a business downtown on the main level, and our band would practice on the 2nd floor. There was a 3rd floor to this building, but we only went up there once. There wasn't even any wiring up there, but we did find a round bathtub in the middle of one of the rooms with a small bone in it. The friend who owned the place said he would often hear footsteps at night above him when he was cleaning up at night, even though he knew no one was upstairs. One night another bandmate swears he saw a shadow with white streaks pass behind me, and another friend whilst we were standing in the doorway to one of these second-floor rooms. The most recent happened about 2 hours ago in the washroom to the top floor, which is a 2-level condo and basement. I live in a decent-sized city in Ontario, 2 hours away from Toronto. 2 hours away from Toronto, and I would never have thought this would be an active spot because it's a small town. But what happened today was so weird. I was sitting on the toilet, no joke, and recently I've been very depressed. So I was pooping on the toilet.
I'm just going to stop you right there. Look, this is not actually part of the original story. I just found it while I was doing the research, and I really wanted to have a story on our show where someone was taking a shit. I snuck it in there on you. That was just me being underhanded and disgusting.
I was thinking, what's going on here? Where's this going? And then Bigfoot turned up.
Yeah, and Chuck Tingle was there playing a saxophone. Yeah, I don't even know what happens in that story. I saw pooping, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to make Paul read this and see if he notices before he gets to it.
As soon as I got to pooping, I thought, hang on, what's going on here?
Yeah, the shower curtain starts violently shaking. I don't know, who cares?
Well, at least you're in the right place if you're going to shit yourself.
There you go. I shouldn't have done that because I actually think the Halliburton, like that story of Halliburton, that's really unique. I don't know that I've ever heard that before. Have you heard anything like that?
Strange, that.
Yeah, like I looked in the comments and no one really had anything insightful to offer. I mean, a few people mentioned Mike Clelland's book, but that's just because of the owl. Like, there's no...
I don't think the owl has anything to do with what happens.
No, I don't think so either. I think some people just have a tiny band of knowledge and they try to apply it to everything.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Halliburton's a strange place. It is a Bigfoot hotspot.
Oh, no shit.
There's been tons of sightings over the years and people who go there quite a lot. I'm not sure if they still do a little conference or something. I'm sure they used to before the plague.
No kidding.
But obviously that's not what seems to be going on here either. It's very odd.
That's like some Princess Mononoke shit.
I mean, I have heard of a couple of hauntings where things seem to shoot up. I remember listening to on a Ghost to Ghost special Art Bell did.
Okay, yeah.
From the 90s, and he had a guy who had an encounter in his own home, and he described this figure. He said it shot up like a blind, just went straight up through his ceiling.
Oh, okay.
So that other than sort of digging into some, that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head that's anything remotely similar.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, again, folks, if you know of any situations that are like this, ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. I'm always fascinated when we come across something unique like this. I had to clean up the language in this considerably because it sounded like it was written by a gorilla.
Was he fighting 100 men at the time?
Oh, God. Sometimes the internet gets just the dumbest bee in their bonnet.
Yes, I always like men who believe that they could watch somebody ripped to pieces in front of them and think, yeah, I want some of that.
Yeah, exactly.
As I've said, after the first dozen or so have been murdered, the other 88, after shitting themselves, have fucked off.
The only hope anyone would ever have is if the gorilla got tired.
Well, somebody tried explaining it like that, saying, well, they're very sort of, they just do something and that's it. And I was like, I don't give a shit. I don't want a gorilla picking me up by my ankle and wanging me around a tree.
I also want to know the bona fides of the fucking primatologist who said that, because I guarantee you that was not Jane Goodall. That was just some jackass. The closest he's seen to a monkey is that time he fell asleep to Planet of the Apes.
These are the kind of men who think they can fight a grizzly.
Oh, yeah. Or even, honestly, other people. These are the guys who, they've never been in a fight in their life, but they're convinced that when it's go time, I just see red, bro. No.
Yeah, that's the
not
blood
how that works.
from that gaping head wound that the bear's jaws have left where your scalp used to be.
Or again, even just other people. Like fights are just, they're such ugly, quick things. And the closest most people come is shit they see on TV. So they think you're both going to stand there in fucking Queensbury rules and,
how about you?
Throw these.
You hairy
exactly.
bastard.
And instead, like I remember talking to one of Nick's friends who was a cop, and he's like, no, normally how it goes is don't glass him. Okay, you glassed him. And that's it. Boom. See, if someone smashed a pint glass in your face, now you can't see. And they're kicking you on the ground until something breaks or they pull them off you.
Yeah. There's too many people who think beer bottles and glasses are made of sugar.
Yeah, exactly.
Having seen too many glassings over the years. I can assure you, you don't do much after that other than bleed.
That's it? Yeah, man. You do not fuck around with glass. Despite what you saw in Terrifier 3, you do not fuck around with glass.
No, you do not.
No, absolutely.
Not there either.
No, nowhere, really. Nowhere. And that's a Terrifier 3 joke for those of you who've seen that movie. I have not, but I read about it in a review because that's as close as I can get to those movies.
Don't worry, I've watched it and it's worse than you think.
I believe it. All right, so before we go on to our last story, I've got another bonus here, one that does not involve pooping. Yes. I did a bonus for patrons last month, I think it was. I did an entire, basically a mini episode. It's about an hour, close to an hour long, called The Ghosts of London. So I went and found a bunch of stories from where I live and just whipped it together into, like I said, a patron bonus show. So I thought I'd share one of those stories here. And now this story comes from a fellow named Chris Doty. I believe he's a London native. I don't know him personally. He used to run a site called Doty Docs. I had to pull this out of the Wayback Machine, so it's not currently available, but I'm sure if you Google around, you can find the link I used to pull it out of the mothballs as well. But this story is called The Voice in the Machine. And Doty goes on to say, in mid-October 2004, Rogers Television was on location at the University of Western Ontario, shooting a segment for its popular primetime show, University Night at the Drink. The crew consisted of a camera operator and a correspondent named Michelle. The subject of the shoot was a sociology student from Oakville named Jillian. Less than 2 minutes into the interview, Michelle asked Jillian what was the greatest film of all time. I like to think Goonies because it's all about adventure, she replied. A few days later, an editor was assembling the raw footage when she noticed something odd about the clip. There was a third female voice on the audio track, whispering, "Shelley, Shelley, Shelley." Perturbed, she went back to the original field tape, only to find that the voice was embedded on both tracks of audio and was not a glitch in the editing equipment. Word about the mysterious voice circulated through the building until it reached Michelle. She started when she heard the news. As a child, she had been called Shelley by close family members, but no one involved with the show, other than herself, knew that. The associate producer of the show leaked the story to local media. On the night the segment aired, viewership and website hits relating to the program went through the roof. This writer had an opportunity to inspect the field tape of the cameraman who shot the interview. The audio quality makes it clear it's not a person whispering off camera. The interview had been recorded by a microphone wired into the camera in order to eliminate any atmospheric interference. And yet the incantation of Shelley, Shelley, Shelley was picked up by both the interviewee's lavalier and the camera mic. The shooter also dismissed the possibility that the voice had bled through from a segment that had been recorded over. In retrospect, it's hard to figure out which is scarier, the voice on the Rogers field tape, or that 5 other people connected with the show, including Michelle, cite Goonies as the best film of all time. Okay, so he's not a fan of Goonies, this guy.
I'm not a fan of why they're showing an edited version on British telly.
Really? What part have they edited out?
Have a guess.
I haven't seen it enough to know.
Well, that's a different issue for a different day. But let's say they don't cut the bit where the children are being shot at, or the children are being threatened, or the children are being terrorised, or they find a dead body in a fridge. No, it's the bit where they fight off an octopus.
Why would that be objectionable?
I don't know. I only noticed it this year, last Christmas when it was on, because it's one of them films. It's on every year, Christmas guaranteed. It's, afternoon staple of British television. Somebody somewhere has made a decision that having kids shot at's fine, but them overcoming an octopus that's trying to eat them, oh no, we can't have that.
That sounds like someone who's into that Japanese music you and I were talking about before the show.
No, I just think it's a dickhead.
Well, I mean, that seems very possible.
Or somebody who's pro-octopus.
The octopus lobby.
Well, I know octopuses are intelligent. Maybe an octopus is in charge of that particular channel's editing and has decided that was my Uncle Bill and I didn't like the way he was portrayed in this film, so I'm taking it out. Fucking humans.
I am not a fan of this oxploitation.
That's it. Oxploitation. This is it. And we need to stand up and raise our tentacles against such things.
Paul, I got to be honest with you. If the octopi are coming for us, they win. They're smarter than I am and probably tougher too. So I just want to say the octopuses of the world who are vying for control. Frankly, I don't think you can do a worse job than the present administration. And I am ready to serve you as one of your. This is getting real weird. I'm going to cut all this.
Well, there's a football tournament coming up next year. Maybe we'll get another celebrity octopus psychic like we did in 2006 with Paul the Octopus.
What?
Paul the Octopus, January 2008 to October 2010, was a common octopus who predicted the results of international football matches, and his accurate predictions during the 2010 World Cup brought him worldwide attention as an animal oracle. During divinations, Paul's keepers would present him with 2 food-containing boxes decorated with the flags of the team in an upcoming game. Whichever box Paul ate from first was considered his prediction from which team would win the match. Out of 14 predictions, Paul had a success rate of 12, giving him a percentage of 85.7% success.
Suck on that, Derek Okora.
He even chose the right choice in the 3rd place playoff game. That's how switched on Paul the Octopus was. And then it tells you about his life, how he was hatched from an egg at the Sea Life Centre in Weymouth and transferred to Germany. He has an enormously large Wikipedia page. That's all I will say. He's got a larger Wikipedia page than some celebrities.
Is he still alive, and is he still issuing predictions?
No, he died just after the World Cup. He was only 2.5 when he passed away.
Taken too soon.
Far too soon. And when I was typing that in, when you put things in on Google, it came up, Paul the Octopus, cause of death. So clearly people are thinking he was bumped off by the Dutch. The Dutch got to him because obviously Spain won the World Cup in 2010 in one of the worst games of football I've ever had the misfortune of watching. Maybe the Dutch nipped over the border, nobbled him.
The orange bastards. I got to tell you, man, I just saw a clip of the U.S. Vice President joking about deporting FIFA attendees next year. So maybe it's a good thing Paul's not around, because he already bumped off the Pope. He might have bumped him off too.
I know one country that can hold a World Cup tomorrow with no problems, and we won't be deporting anyone.
Canada. Our best trading partners lost their fucking minds. Please come spend money.
Yeah, well, we're all right. We're hosting the Euros in 2028, so I'll be drunk most of June that year.
Our last story for the night is A Shadow over Muskoka. I had a close and dear friend years ago. We went to high school together and instantly became close as we enjoyed the same everything: movies, games, activities, and so on. This friend had a beautiful cottage in Muskoka, which is about an hour and a bit from the area we lived in. They would talk about it a bunch, saying how awesome it was to go there in the summer, as it was right on a river and was perfect for swimming and paddleboarding. They also said it was kind of haunted, just passing comments about how spooky it was, how they'd hear things at night, how it was probably home to a ghost. They always said this jokingly, like it was no big deal, so we'd usually laugh at the idea that their beautiful and pretty much newly built cottage was actually a ghost house. Fast forward a couple of years, and they invited me into their cottage in October. The family was going up, and my friend asked if I could come with. I was super excited to go because I'd never really been to Muskoka and knew how beautiful it could be, especially in the fall. I want to preface what comes next with the fact that I have never had any paranormal stuff happen to me, ever. I don't disbelieve it, and I never have, but I've never been in a position where I'd feel like, okay, this is definitely paranormal. We get to where the cottage is located, in a small community called Matthiasville. As soon as we entered, I got this weird feeling, like a shadow had been cast. It was a beautiful sunny day with good vibes all the way up until we crossed the bridge that led into the community. The weather turned overcast, but it wasn't that. There was a heavy and weird energy. We're driving along the riverside for some time. I told my friend about the energy feeling, to which they said, "Oh, I know, it's weird, right? Like, heavy." Things lightened up as we arrived at the cottage. This place was absolutely beautiful. New build, 3 floors, big deck on the 2nd floor, and tons of windows that went floor to ceiling. It overlooked the river and had a forest trail at the back. The trail was way too thick with brush and wood to even try navigating it, so we spent a lot of our time by the water and on the big deck, chilling. We would drive into the nearest town of Bracebridge for some outings, and at night we dedicated our time to beating Call of Duty World at War, split screen. Ah, the heady days of youth. It was an absolute blast. On the third and last night, the dad had to head home early for some work stuff, so it was just my friend, their mom, and myself hanging out for the night. The mom was sleeping in the loft way up on the third floor, and we made the basement floor our home for the weekend. We decided to watch a movie and eat snacks, but when that was finished, I suggested we go for a night walk, since it was a clear night with a big moon, and I love going for night strolls. My friend was really against this. Yeah, your friend is right. They said the place was spooky enough during the day, let alone at night. I managed to convince them, and out we went. We were walking along the road that went along the river, towards the dam and the end of the community where the graveyard was. We made it about a quarter way when my friend stopped dead in their tracks. I looked back to see what was up, and they were just standing there. They looked defensive. I asked what was up, and they said, "We need to go back, like now. This feels weird, and I don't like it at all." I asked if they were scared, like if they heard an animal or something. As soon as I asked that, we heard a deep and loud cracking and snapping of wood in the dense forest above us, on a rocky ridge beside the road. I looked up to where we heard it, and I felt like everything hushed. Crickets and all other nighttime sounds seemed to have just stopped. My friend quietly said my name. I looked back at them, and then suddenly the bushes and shrubs underneath the ridge on the side of the road exploded, as if something huge jumped in them and thrashed around. This made us bolt, and I remember just saying, "Run!" as I followed behind my friend. We ran nonstop straight into the basement bedroom and both hopped into the bed. I remember saying it was likely a coyote or a raccoon or something, and as soon as I said those words, a creaking started forming up above us in the living area of the first floor. The creaking soon turned into slow, heavy footsteps, back and forth, and loud, as if someone was wearing work boots or something. I remember my friend, through tears, saying, "Does that sound like a coyote to you?" I cannot even describe the absolute feeling of dread that washed over me, like there was something up there, taunting us. We lay in complete silence for what felt like hours. We got into the bed at around 3 a.m. after our walk, which turned into a run, and the footsteps didn't stop for an hour or so. I finally remember falling asleep at 6 a.m. When we woke up, the first thing we did, of course, was ask the mom if she'd been awake last night around 3. She hadn't been, and hadn't even gotten up once to use the bathroom. Even if she had, we would have heard her door open and then the footsteps down the loft stairs. Everything was open concept on the first floor, so it was easy to hear things going on. We packed up and left. My friend sold the cottage a couple of years later. I don't think any of them went back once after that weekend. All I know for sure is that night I heard heavy, clear, and loud footsteps pacing around above us on the first floor. That was my first and only paranormal experience, and I will never forget it. Paul, how many times do I have to say this? Stay out of the fucking woods. This all could have been avoided. You had everything you needed. You had snacks, you had video games, you had a house to yourself. I am a 42-year-old man. I still appreciate these things. And instead you go pouncing around the woods and end up being chased by some kind of ghoul or goblin. This is on them.
Well, I mean, the outside stuff could be anything,
sure,
really. And once again, I mean, there's even been an alleged couple of dogman sightings in that particular area.
Shit. Okay.
But there are numerous Bigfoot, Sasquatch witnesses from that particular area as well. However, that seems to have absolutely no correlation with what goes on in the house. So, once again, is it two different things happening that the witness has linked? Are they linked, or are they two separate events involving two different phenomena that have just blurred into one because they've happened at the same time?
Yeah, that could be. I can see panic just sort of automatically merging the two together.
Absolutely. So, yeah. But, no, stay indoors when you've got all those wonderful things at hand.
I will say, too, I was unprepared for what people here call the cottage. Because when I was a little kid, my mom dated a guy, and he had a cottage. And it was a shack. It was a cabin. We'll say it was a cabin. But there was no electricity. There was an outhouse. It would, that it was very rustic, we'll say. It was in the middle of fucking nowhere on a lake. Beautiful setting, but rustic. And people here, when they say cottage, they mean like it's our second house. It's a very different way of life. It was not, it was unexpected.
I was surprised when I discovered that the Canadian Fire Service often have to be tasked to go into remote locations and dismantle cottages that people have just thrown up.
Really? I did not know this either.
I saw Justin Chernopesky, who does Mountain Beast Mysteries, because he used to work for the fire service. And I'm trying to think which one it was. One of his early documentaries he did involved them having to pull down one of these cabins that somebody built, and apparently it happens quite a lot in BC especially, that people just build little huts out there and go off grid or use them as hunting lodges or wherever, and they're all illegal because they're classed as fire hazards.
Interesting. I mean, I knew there's a lot of people who just move out to the bush. I mean, I remember talking to a guy I know who went to forest firefighter school, and he said that the smartest guy in his class, because I guess one of the things you had to do is come up with like what would your plan be if you were a firebug? Like what you have to like show what your plan would be, and then you have to figure out, everyone else has to figure out how to combat it. Like what would the measures be in that case? And he said the most gifted guy in his class, his plan was so chillingly meticulous that it kind of gave everyone pause. And the guy, he didn't actually become a firefighter. He just basically put together a lean-to somewhere out in the woods. And that plan, I should mention, involved how to arrange, again, how to strategically start fires in such a way as to completely incinerate a small town. It was apparently very well thought out, very plausible. And he lives somewhere outside of Revelstoke now, apparently.
Is it like the chilling footage that Unsolved Mysteries had all those years ago of that arsonist who was videotaping his own fires and laughing rather disturbingly? Have you ever seen those?
I don't remember that one, no.
Yeah, he ended up killing people. They caught him in the end.
Jesus Christ.
But he was like taping it, and you can hear him going, like laughing really menacingly as these houses and things go up. It was very disturbing.
Oh, man.
But yeah, it's, I don't know, it's late 80s, early 90s, like proper old ones, that this mad arsonist was on the rampage.
The things you learn here on Ghost Story, guys.
Educational and informative.
And handsome. You guys don't know because it's an audio format, but both very, very handsome.
Yes, I've been moisturising a lot this week. My pores have been very thirsty due to the weather.
Well, you look
Thanks.
great. You always look good. You look great too, Bren.
I was laughing.
Thanks, Paul.
Let me finish. You fucker. Your skin's improved massively since you realised I wasn't taking the piss.
No, absolutely. No, I love it, man. It's funny because I will, like, I have a separate set of skincare stuff in my gym bag for when I go work out and I shower at the gym. And I can tell some of the dudes that give me side eye when I'm putting it on in the mirror, I don't give a fuck. I look fucking great. You guys want to look like someone's wrinkly old asshole? You guys keep at it, but I'm going to keep on looking good.
Yeah, they're the people that'll look like sandblasted testicles in 10 years' time.
Yeah, exactly. Some of them look like
weathered.
That. Yeah, at the very
Protect
least.
your skin. It's all you've got, man.
Telling you, man. That's it. I think we've managed to bring up the conversation from the previous slow, so that seems good. This is like a good note to end our first volume of Ontario shows on. I don't know when the next volume will be, but if you have stories from Ontario, whether no matter where it is in the province, please send them to ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. You can also comment on Spotify, or maybe don't send stories via DMs on social media. Those are kind of hard to get through just because we have a lot of random messages and it's hard to pick out the good ones among the bullshit. Instagram doesn't do a great job of filtering those for us, but email is probably the best way to do it. We would love to have an entirely listener story centered episode on Ontario. That would be very, very cool. And we're actually hoping to do more Canadian provinces because I'm Canadian, and we have done I think we've only ever done one Canadian show, or two, I guess, if you include the Revelstoke, or three, if you include the Victoria shows from way back in the day. But yeah, we would love to do more Canadian content.
Especially if you know anybody that's had their head pulled off.
That would be great.
Valley.
Yeah.
Which has happened more than it should.
I mean, one is more than it should.
I think there's 6, isn't there?
Something like that. Again, it's all I know is it's more than one.
Yes, and it's not bears.
No, bears. No, the bears have a whole other MO. We'll say that.
Yes, just taking a head's not really in their skill set.
So again, yeah, if you have stories about people having their head pulled off or just other spooky stories from Ontario, send us an email, ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. We're on Instagram as The Ghost Story Guys. You'll find us on Facebook as Ghost Story Guys, finally made a group. And we're on Reddit as r/Ghost Story Guys podcast. We are going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hey there, listeners. Before you reach for that skip 15 seconds ahead button, I promise you this isn't an ad. We wanted to take a minute to talk to you about mental health. On this show, I've always tried to be as honest and open as possible about my struggles with depression and anxiety, because even though we've come a long way towards acknowledging the very real damage these things can do, there is still way too much lingering stigma about reaching out for help. And when you start to feel like there's no help, it's easy to start feeling like there's no hope. But Paul has joined me today to remind you there is always hope and there's always help.
We're not going to try and talk you out of self-harming right now, because we know that's not how it works. Instead, what we wanted to do was tell you something now and hope that should things get bad, you'll remember it and make a phone call or send a text message before you make any permanent decisions. As someone who knows all too well just how important mental health can be, it's never too late to reach out.
In Canada, the number to call is 133-456-4566. In the USA, the new number to call is 988. That's 988.
In the UK, the number to call is 116123 or text SHOUT, that's SHOUT, to 85258. In Australia, the number to call is 131114.
However bad shit seems, it will pass. And no matter what your brain might be telling you at any given moment, and believe me when I say I know this intimately, there are people who love you and people who care deeply about how you treat yourself. Should a time come when you find yourself despairing, please know that we've both been where you are, and there is a way back to the world. Take care. Welcome back. The Ghost Story Guys are Luke Greensmith, who helps us find our stories, Tanya Downing, who helps manage our Facebook community, Sarah Kent, who manages our Reddit community.
Our paranormal conductor is Mr. Brennan Storr.
And of course, my friend and co-host is the one, the only, the inimitable Paul Bestel, the paranormal Johnny Carson himself, host of Mysteries and Monsters. Paul, we're going to have to update that because a lot of folks are like, who the fuck is Johnny Carson? And then I crumble into dust. The paranormal skibbity toilet himself. I don't know. The paranormal Mr. Beast?
Mr. Beast.
The paranormal Theo Vaughn, except he has a functioning brain.
Hey, dear.
Host of Mysteries and Monsters. Paul, what's coming up on M&M?
I welcome George Lunsford to the show for his first appearance as we dive into some of his strange encounters on the hunt for Bigfoot and Dogman down in the South Carolinas and Appalachian trails, along with his book covering all manner of strange and mysterious things across the continent of North America. Thankfully, a book that even concludes with some stories from the Caribbean. So good fun all round.
Very cool. And where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters across most social media sites and all podcast platforms.
Fabulous. I'm largely the truth on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. And you can find my horror fiction show, Fear Daily, everywhere fine podcasts live. As we said at the top of the show, we couldn't do this without our paid subscribers. Again, we appreciate everyone who listens to the podcast, but folks who support us financially, again, without you, this wouldn't happen. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you want bonus shows, extra conversations between myself and Paul, our monthly live stream, or maybe even your name read out in our Ghost Force shoutouts, click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. That's patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or sign up to become a friend of the cabin via Apple Podcasts or YouTube. And again, if you are signing up to Patreon and you have an iOS device, we would love it if you could do it through the website and not the app. If you do it through the app, we still love you. Don't worry about it. But all things being equal, the website is better because Apple's basically given up any pretense that they're not a manifestation of Satan on this earth. And so the less we have to interact with them, the better. Yes, Crapple is exactly right. Paul, do you have any guest spots coming up?
No.
Okay.
No, I've got my talk next week in Sheffield.
Oh,
yeah,
at
Tuesday night,
Airy Ferry, right?
7:30. Be there or be square.
And what's the date?
Tuesday the 13th.
Fabulous. So you'll find a link. Basically, I've been posting a link to both the Paul's Strange Days Festival appearance and the Airy Ferry appearance in the show notes for the last couple months. But so if you want to attend or find more information about those, again, just check the link in the show notes or check out the blog at ghoststoryguys.com. Nothing coming up for me. I think the short film I'm in has been submitted to a bunch of festivals. We'll see if it gets picked up by any of them. If not, the director said I'll be allowed to share it with everyone soon if it doesn't get picked up. And that'll be fun because you get to see me shout at someone. And not because I'm just an angry person, but because I was being paid to do it. And other than that, as I mentioned, I was on Where Did the Road Go? I don't know when that's coming out. Maybe sometime next month. I think he's about a month ahead right now. But as always, I'll post at ghoststoryguys.com when that drops. Speaking of ghoststoryguys.com, you can go there for all your merchandise needs. We have t-shirts, stickers, all kinds of cool stuff. And again, you get that at ghoststoryguys.com. Finally, our theme song, Radio, Into the Darkness We Go, is composed and performed by Peter Kursov of Pizzanta Music. Find more from him by searching for Pizzanta Music wherever you get your tunes. And they are streaming, of course, courtesy of Night Harvest Recordings. I want to give a big shout out to Elliot of the Revenants. Elliot's been recently diagnosed with a pretty serious illness. Just want to send our best regards out to Elliot and wishes for a swift recovery. And I guess that's going to do it.
We'll be back next week. But until then,
into the darkness we go. I'm sneezing. Still.
Filthy.
Yep. Well, gotta be good at something in this world. When I'm going to other countries, I like to help children. Stop there. Stop there. I like to talk to children. Nope, please stop.
I didn't say that.
Well, that's how I'm going to edit it.
You're like the Portuguese police, trying to put words in my mouth. I haven't built some shelves this evening to put up with this smut. You know, not only did he give us, that amazing performance in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, but also if you've ever had the misfortune of seeing in Cool as Ice.
All I can say, Paul, is drop that zero and get with the hero.
How do you pronounce that?
Guelph.
No, I meant the first word.
It's a haunted. Haunted. Haunted in the Guelph.
Haunted.
You know his work.
Haunted. One of the cats just wailing and Julie's asleep.
Telling you. I'm changing my bio, man. I'm changing both of our bios on the website. I'm going to make some shit up.
Meersbrook's top spoon player.
12 inches.